I had no clue. I had no clue that that place was going to just ultimately change my life. I knew I was going to learn a lot, right? But I didn't know the extent. How could I have possibly understood the extent of which it would like shape all of my life?
That's Emmy-winning television producer Lindsay Shookus. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristin Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're in Lindsay Shookus' home in New York City, talking about how 20 years at Saturday Night Live shaped her life outside of work, and how, after leaving SNL 9 months ago, she's writing her own new chapter. Lindsay landed a role at SNL straight out of college and grew into running the talent department, booking hosts and helping each guest feel at home. Now, she's adjusting to life after the show, being present and welcoming her daughter home from school, reclaiming her Saturday nights, and reframing her sense of identity. But one thing she's held on to is her passion for helping people feel comfortable and confident. In this conversation, she shares why she keeps a help diary, how she's turned her love of connecting people into a community of hardworking women, and why success looks completely different to her now than it did 20 years ago. Make Yourself at Home with Lindsay Shookus. Lindsay, thank you so much for having us into your home. We're so excited to have you on Make Yourself at Home.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
To start out, set the stage for us a little bit. Tell me about where you live and why you love it.
Well, I'm on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I've lived on the Upper West Side since 2009. I'm right near the park. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's the coolest place to live, but I think it suits me very well. I guess I'm not the coolest, but I think it fits me because it's a little bit calmer. The sidewalks are big. I can walk, when I'm walking to a lot of appointments, I can walk like a little bit through the park. I take a lot of walks in the park. Having a child, like being close to like playgrounds and, you know, outside grass, believe it or not, in Manhattan, is really nice. So I love it up here.
And what does home mean to you?
Home means to me, well, it's changed. It evolves over the years, right? Home when you're 22 is very different than home when you're 42 and a parent. I'd say home is comfort. It's safety. It's maybe like the deep breath in and the exhale of like, and that was really important to me to feel that in my apartment here. You know, outside in Manhattan, there's so much craziness and so much like you're always hustling and walking fast and getting on the subway and getting pushed. And it's like, for me, it's the exhale of like, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm comfortable, and this is a safe place for me and my daughter.
Yeah. And this is not really the pace that you grew up with, right? What about New York excited you? Is this what you pictured for your life when you were a kid? Is this the life you wanted?
Oh gosh, what a great question. No, I don't think I knew a lot of the things that I wasn't going to do. Like I was never going to I like dropped out of AP calculus. I was like, this is not for me. Physics wasn't for me. I love to be creative when I was a kid. But for me, growing up in Buffalo, New York, like, you know, show business was like local news or regional theater. I went to a lot of regional theater growing up. And so I just knew I loved it. I knew I was jealous of the people who were on stage. I knew I craved it, that thing that they had. I craved it in my life, but I really didn't have any idea how I would even achieve it. I just kind of was like, well, that would be cool. So yeah, and I also didn't imagine, raising a kid in Manhattan. I grew up like with a backyard and I rode my bike by myself when I was 8 years old. And I had some independence that, you know, my sweet 10-year-old, I left her alone in the apartment for like 20 minutes yesterday to like go to someone else's apartment in the building, and that was like a big deal. So
Yeah.
it's just very different, and I love it. I really love Manhattan. I love being here. I love the energy. And I actually have grown accustomed to being a parent in New York. I This works for me,
Yeah.
and it works for my daughter. But it's definitely not anything that. And my parents still are kind of like, "You don't have a backyard," like it's a real, it's a strange transition from how I probably imagined raising kids, with the house and the dog and
Yeah.
the the community like activities and the block parties. That's just not something we get, but we get a lot of other things. My
Yeah.
daughter's been to more museums in her life than I for sure have, like at 42. She has been to all the museums. She knows the Met like the back of her hand, and like, how cool is that?
It's funny for me to hear you say, I guess I'm not cool. I think people who follow your career probably think, wow, that she had the coolest job ever, working at SNL for 20 years. You've won a bunch of Emmys. What do you think would surprise people about the person that you are at home?
Well, I was the least cool person
Yeah.
at SNL. Let's be very clear. Be around a bunch of comedians all the time, and you're just like, no,
Yeah.
not cool. Um, what would surprise me about my life at home? Well, it's very I mean, I'm a girl from Buffalo who like likes to eat pizza, and like pizza and salad would be like my favorite thing. I think I love calm. I love well, I've started really I go to bed earlier now that I'm not working at SNL, so
I'm sure.
that's interesting. I think in general, like I actually like to be awake. Like even when I was working at SNL, like I kind of liked to come home and not do all of that stuff. Like it was hard for me to want to watch a bunch of movies, and hard to like want to like I didn't want to go to the parties or the premieres. I really like, I love being social. I love throwing a dinner party. Oh my God. Like a 10-person dinner party is the greatest thing in the world
Yes.
for me. But like the craziness and the big parties to me, just sometimes they feel empty, and they weren't always like what I would choose for myself. I like
Hmm.
small and intentional, like meaningful and
Yeah.
curated. And so, it's also like at the end of the day, like any of these jobs, right? Like SNL is like such an incredible place. It's so full of energy. It's funny. It's like fast paced. It's intense. You're dealing with high profile people, but at the end of
Hmm.
the day, it's still a job, right?
Yeah.
I still was working 6 days a week, and I still was working really long days, and there was still like stress and problem solving and putting out fires. And so, I was so happy to come home at the end of the
Right.
day. I was happy to like put that away and come back to my space and like put it to bed for, I mean, sometimes 8 to 10 hours, mostly like probably
Right.
6 hours, but yeah, it's like it's not as glamorous as it looks, is what I would say. It's definitely
Hmm.
not as glamorous as it looks.
I think that that is such a truth about working in TV that a lot of people don't know. And especially at a show like SNL, it has to take over your life in so many ways. And so when you took that job, you were right out of college. Did you have any idea how much taking that job was going to change every aspect of your life, from your day to day to how you unwind and the amount of time you had outside of work?
I mean, even you just asking the question almost just kind of like gave me goosebumps, or like made me a little emotional, just to think of like 22-year-old Lindsay had
Hmm.
no idea, just no idea. I knew I was lucky.
Yeah.
And as a woman, I'm trying to get better about reframing that, of not just being like, wow, I was lucky, good timing. Like I was good. I worked really hard and I was
Yeah.
good at the job, but I was lucky. I was really lucky and fortunate to that was my first job out of college, but I had no clue. I had no clue that that place was going to just ultimately change my life. I knew I was going to learn a lot, right? But I didn't know the extent. How could I have possibly understood the extent of which it would like shape all of my life? I mean, I met my
Yeah.
ex-husband there. We had our daughter there. I mean, the friends that I made there, I mean, the 20 years of knowledge, all the relationships that I built, and the skill set that I
Mm-hmm.
like learned and then really, really sharpened, I had no clue. And um, I mean, when I think if I could have like, thinking back to like what I would have said to 22-year-old Lindsay, it's like, that's not a question you asked, but
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about it now. But I think I would have been kind of like hold on. I would have been like
Yeah.
write a journal, keep a journal because this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
I would have said like hold on, and I probably would have said like don't take it so seriously. I took it really seriously, and
Mm-hmm.
I just had so many rules for myself. Um, I had a real thirst for perfection, especially in my 20s, and I think I would have said like live a little, and let these lessons and this part of your life like wash over you
Yeah.
and enjoy it. It's really special.
Yeah. Did you keep a journal?
Didn't. I definitely didn't. And I wish, what the thing is, my friends are my journal because
Mm-hmm.
I would come home and I had a couple really great friends that I would tell my stories to. And so they've really now been like, oh my God, do you remember that story? Or this thing
Good.
happened with, remember Tom Hanks and this story? And you're like, oh my God, that was funny. And
Right.
I have some beautiful friends and family who like luckily have a better memory than me. As
Mm-hmm.
someone said to me recently, like, everything was 6 days, right? So a host would come
Yeah.
in on a Monday and they'd leave on a Saturday night. And you would just like, you would be so laser focused on these people. And then it was kind of like once it was over, like Sunday, as I said, Sunday would always come. And then
Mm-hmm.
you'd shut that book would be shut and you'd move on to the next book. And you kind of only had the capacity for those 6 days. And then you just needed to put it away and move on to the next week. Because the Monday morning you're waking up and there's a new person coming in.
Yeah.
And you could be going from, I remember once it was like you went from Miley Cyrus to Bruce Willis. And like, how different are those two people, right? But you have to just close Miley Cyrus and
Yeah.
then open the book to Bruce Willis the next week and then start all over again. And so my capacity for all those beautiful details after 20 years wasn't that great. So luckily I have some great friends who remember who
Right.
remember the really funny things to be like, that's a good one. I'll have to remember that for next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think, you started out working as an assistant, worked your way up to the head of the talent department. Talent does so much on a show like SNL where you're really booking these hosts and booking the musical guests and bringing in these amazing people to bring so much color and life to the show. But you're also, like you said, in those 6 days responsible for making them feel at home and helping them get adjusted. And it has to be such an intimidating environment to come into. And no matter how big a celebrity is, they're still just a person walking into a room of people who they really respect and they want to do a good job. So are there any people that you can think of that were, just right at home immediately, or people who had a little bit more trouble adjusting? And can you walk us through how you kind of made people feel comfortable and made them feel at home? What were the little things that you did to make people feel, more at ease?
Sure. It's funny, like there was no like rhyme or reason exactly. Like you would think like, oh, well, comedians, they're going to be really comfortable. And that's not the case because comedians almost had more to prove a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Like I can think back to like Alec Baldwin had done it so many times. Alec Baldwin was so comfortable. Martin Short, like even though he wasn't someone who hosted a lot, Martin Short was just like, he just could glide into a room. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's no one who has a funnier entrance into a room than Martin Short. I would say that the people who typically had a lot of confidence were athletes.
Huh.
Athletes came in. I mean, I remember Peyton Manning telling me once, he's like, this isn't my day job. Like, I don't have to be great at this. But he
Wow.
was used to like really high pressure situations. I mean, what's more high
Mm-hmm.
pressure than being the quarterback in the Super Bowl, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
your job, right? So if you can handle that, then like coming to SNL seems so easy.
Yeah.
And athletes are also really coachable. They're, I mean, out of anyone I ever worked with, they're the most coachable people, which makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
They spend their entire lives from when the second they realize they're good at something, the rest of their like, their career into professional, being a professional athlete is being told what they're doing wrong. you're not working hard enough, cardio, eating better, gain muscle, keep your elbow up if you're batting, like all those things. And so I remember when Peyton Manning was on the show, he did a walk on like 2 years ago. I was helping him through this weekend update piece he was doing, and I was, we were working on it, and he's like, God, he's like, you're such a great coach. And I was like, we call
what
it
a compliment.
We call it producing here, but yes, like it's the same concept, right?
Yeah.
And athletes just, Charles Barkley, another one. Charles Barkley just came in and was like, he just knew, he knew where to get the laugh, and he also wasn't, again, taking it so seriously. It was harder when someone had something to prove, either to themselves. Usually it's like,
Yeah.
having something to prove starts from within, right? And then you also have to go into the world and then face reviews and online stuff. And so when someone was really dead set on like, I have to have this be the best show in the world, those were harder times. You can't, it's setting the bar too high. And so it was, each week was a different thing, and trying to figure out like, okay, what's the vibe this week? And I started doing Zoom during COVID. I started doing Zooms the week before, just so I could kind of get a sense about the person and help them through what the beginning of the week would look like. And that always helped to like build that relationship before the week started.
Absolutely. Do you feel like this is something that you've always been good at, welcoming strangers and making them feel really comfortable? You mentioned you love a 10-person dinner party. Is this something that was sort of just in your nature already?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I can distinctly remember being in high school. I was president of my class, my junior and senior year.
Me too. Love it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. Really important stuff. But I remember like I can remember walking down the hallway of my high school and being like, how do you make sure people feel seen? Like, and I can actually remember the moment of walking down the hallway and being like, I want to make sure the people in my class feel seen,
Wow.
And so I think that's kind of a version, right, of what I have been doing in my career, is just like building relationships and making people feel comfortable and seen and heard, and really that they have the ability, giving them the skills and the confidence to do something that they're afraid to do, right? So I think I've always loved it. I've always loved helping people. I've always been a problem solver. I mean, since I was a small child. My mom would say I came out of her a producer. Like I was like, creating my sister's birthday parties when I was like 8. I was like, and we'll need a jump house for her party, mother. But I think this is who I am. It's who when I really think in hindsight, like I think I was born somebody who loved to like get to know who somebody was and then figure out how to help them.
Tell me about your help book. We talked about this a little bit on our prep call.
I just thought,
you had it handy? Oh, perfect. I love it.
My help diary.
I love it. How long have you been doing your help book? Explain the help book for us, and then tell me a little bit about, what it means to you.
Well, I made an official help diary after I left SNL. I think it's my best friend and I, we love helping people, period. So I've been doing it for a long time, but this was like this purposeful idea of writing something down. I believe in like, the older I get, the more I believe in like the power of manifestation. I also believe, especially for women, we have a hard time like vocalizing where we need help. Like actually, if I say to you, where do you need help? That's a hard thing for a lot of people to be like, well, where do I need help? Everybody needs help. Whether it's like, I'm not sleeping well, or I want to lose 5 pounds, or I'm suffering with my relationship with my mother, or I need a new assistant, or do you know any, like, what melatonin do you use? Everybody needs help. And I think it's important to learn how to say it, and then also to give yourself permission to ask for help. So I've started taking this to every meeting I go to. I meet with a million. Now that I have time, I meet with so many incredible people, and I always take it with me. And sometimes people have a hard time saying it, and I really push them. I really push them, and I write it down. And I think it's like putting into the universe something you need. Sometimes it's simple. Someone's like looking for a therapist, or they need a suggestion for a class for their child. But sometimes it's bigger, and I write it down, and then I really try and go back to it when I hear other people talking about things that they know how to offer, or I heard a great couples therapist, and I was like, oh, I remember someone needed a couples therapist, and then I connect the dots, and I think it fills my bucket to do that, and I also like the idea of encouraging other people to do that. So it's something that is very near and dear to my heart now, and I love it, and I also love that my daughter sees me do it. I think it's important for my daughter to see it. So.
Right, absolutely. And tell me a little bit about how this concept of helping people turned into something a little bit more official with what you're doing now with Women Work Hard.
So again, I think I've always enjoyed connecting people. I've always enjoyed throwing parties. We started Women Work Hard in 2018. I had a friend who was a single mom, is a single mom, and she was trying to grow a business in Manhattan. And I thought it was an incredible business. And, she was having trouble meeting the right clientele. And I just called Kristin, my best friend. I met her on my first day of college, and I called her and I was like, I want to throw this party. I want to invite 50 interesting women to come, not our friends. Like, I want to be very thoughtful. I don't want to just invite the people that we know really well. I want to invite
Yeah.
50 interesting women across industries, and I want to call it Women Work Effing Hard. And she was like, let's do it. And so we had this party in 2018. It was supposed to be a one-off. And we, at the end of it, we said, like, there's action items here. Like, because
Yeah.
people would be like, well, what's the catch? Why am I here? Like, are you going to ask me for money? Like, is this a timeshare? Like, what are we doing here? And basically we were like, the catch is that we want you to find one person in this room that you didn't know before and try and help them. And we gave a bag, a female founded gift bag. And we're like, find some products in this bag that you like, buy them, give them as gifts, tell your friends about them, support females in business. And we've just grown it. And now we have our big flagship event is coming up next week. And we're going to have about 200 people, maybe a little bit less. And we just highlight female businesses. We really help connect women to like the idea that you don't have to be the richest woman in the room or the most connected person to help the woman next to you. There's so many, I mean, think about just you yourself, Kristin, think about what you have learned in your career and think about how much you can give that experience and that knowledge to other people. We're not thinking about our brain power enough as an asset and a resource. And it's so even your brain power, like what you can share with someone is astounding. One of my most proud things is when you have these events and you see someone like I remember my friend was like, I need a food scientist. And someone else was like, I've got two food scientists. And you're like, yes, like these people who are actually, and now I've started being better about being like, hey, at the party next week, there's going to be somebody, you need to meet them because you are both working on like hormonal replacement therapies. And I think that'll be really interesting for you guys to chat, and really trying to be thoughtful about where we put our time and energy and how we can help.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting point. I think especially after COVID, people are really thinking critically about how they spend their time and how to spend your time really meaningfully. And I can imagine that now that you've left SNL, you have such a different schedule. Your time is just so different. So tell me a little bit about how, I mean, obviously that's a big career change, but how that's affected every other part of your life, making that transition.
Yeah. Well, yes, you can imagine like after 20 years, in 20 years of my entire adult life, right? I became, let's say I left college, I moved to New York, and I started at SNL. So my entire adult life was at SNL. I guess what I would say is what the joke I make recently, and maybe I said this to you when we talked, is like, I'm like, has the sky always been this blue? Because the sky is so damn blue. Like, I think it's like my head has been like, I'm now like, instead of like looking down, I'm looking up a little bit more. I mean, honestly, like, I think the biggest change in my life is like the actual presence day to day. Like I am here, like I am with you right now. I'm not thinking of 10 other things. My worry jar has become a little bit smaller. It's still intense.
Yeah.
I have a nice solid worry jar, but it's my worry. It's like my worries, you know, and it's what does like Lindsay want to put into the world? And so the worries become a little bit more aligned with my own happiness and my own values. So that's pretty special. It's special for me to be able to appreciate that. I think I could only appreciate that having been coming from the world that I've come from,
Yeah.
which I am so grateful to have come from.
Yeah.
Um, yes, I go to bed earlier. I guess what, on Saturday nights, I'm still like, it's Saturday. I'm here. Like, when I go, I walk into a party and I'm like, I think it's now April. I still do it because I am still so astounded that I am out in the world with people on a Saturday at 6 o'clock. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, look at people. People exercise at 4 o'clock on Saturdays. Who knew? Like, oh my God, you do your grocery shopping Sunday mornings. That's cool. Brunch. Brunch is a thing. So
Amazing.
I'm so happy. My happiness level is thriving, if I can
Mm-hmm.
say. And yeah, I'm just really getting to like experience a new version of the world. I mean, it is a new chapter in my life. And it's like I am like a kid at Christmas where I'm like, oh my God, this is cool, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty astounded by the people I'm meeting and the people I'm getting to work with. And like, it's like full heart. Like I have a full heart.
Amazing. And how do you feel like, you mentioned you were there for your entire adult life. Do you feel like you're having this moment of, an identity reframe where you're thinking, okay, who am I now without that piece of myself? It has to like be such a big piece of yourself since you spent so much time there. So what are you focusing on now? What are you really, how do you see yourself now without that?
Oh, for sure. It's a total loss of identity. And
Wow.
like, it was hard, you know, it was a hard thing to process to be like, okay, who am I now? Who also like, who are my friend? Like, are the, you know, what friendships are real? Like, what's real kind of.
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said it was just like the simplest thing in the world. It's, you know, it's painful. It's like, you know, everything, you know, as an adult being like, and then be like, okay, well now that's done, and now like, who do you want to be? And be
Yeah.
like, okay, no big deal, no big deal. But I'm finding it, I'm really, my self evolution has really happened in the past 10 years as like who I've become and and the person I really like. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of that's through, you know, tough times. And I always say like, it's like finding the good in the garbage. Like all the stuff that has made me better it's the muck, it's the garbage times, it's the heavy times. And so
Yeah.
the person I am today is like, first of all, I'm a work in progress, right? Like, and I'm slowly giving myself the time to figure out what it is I don't have. You know, someone said to me, a very smart woman said to me,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, and I think this is great advice. She said, you shouldn't make any decisions about your future based on what the people in your past are going to think. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought to myself, like, wow, I mean, think about it. Like, you think about an ex-boyfriend and you're like, I'm going to do this. Or like, you know, anything you leave behind, you're like, well, I want those people to really think about what I'm doing here. Or like, I want to show them this. And it's like, I've really
Yeah.
done the work of like, I don't have to have it figured out right away. I know I have like some really beautiful forward motion in my life that makes me really
Mm-hmm.
excited. I've made decisions like I'm going to work with people I like. That's a really interesting thing. Someone said to me, they're like, you get to choose the narcissist you work with. And I was like, I do. I'm choosing my narcissist now. I think I'm really excited. It's a really exciting kind of like unveiling for me. What I'm doing is I'm finding people that I feel passionate about to work with. I'm finding uh, passionate projects to work on. And also like, I've realized how much impact is important to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
show business can't always be about impact, right? When you're creating a comedy show, you're not like, well, let's make sure we're really helping the world. And then I always used to have people say to me like, oh, but you're like the medicine, comedy is medicine. And you're kind of like, well, we're not saving the world, right? But
Yeah.
I think SNL has a really important job and a really important duty, especially through political times, like a political elections. But now I get to like really think about where do I want my impact to be, and impact is one of my most important things, like helping people
Mm-hmm.
impact gratitude, joy, the journey. Like I'm old enough now and I've gone through enough to be like those are the important things, and then now I'm
Yeah.
just finding the projects and the people that align with those values. It's a little ethereal to say all that stuff, but that's the journey I'm taking, right? Like those are actually meaningful foundation blocks in my life now, and now I get to build on top of that. And like how cool, right? How cool that I'm in a place where like I really like myself. I'm really happy. I'm genuinely happy. I know how to find joy. I don't have to be perfect. I know how to, I'm not perfect at it, but I know how to make mistakes gracefully. I've learned how to be better at failing and bad times and the valleys of life. And now I get to
Mm-hmm.
like, I just feel like this is what a beautiful chapter, like that I get to
Yeah.
now slowly read. I don't have to have it. I don't have to know what's going to happen at the end. I just have to
Yeah.
be like, just keep moving forward, find people you like, find things you believe in. And I strangely really believe like the idea of you put goodness out into the world, you get goodness back. And
Yeah.
so far that's really working for me. So I'm gonna like stick
Mm-hmm.
stick with it. I'm gonna stick with that.
Makes sense. I love
Yeah.
that line too, and I totally agree. Thinking about this chapter that you're in, it has to feel a lot slower and more thoughtful. Like you said, you kind of slowly read this one.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been on such a crazy pace working at Saturday Night Live, every week. That 6-day schedule is crazy. Now, when you get to have this moment of calm and like really kind of sit in this journey, how do you feel like your home is giving you the space you need to, really explore different passions and things like that? How is your home kind of helping you along the way?
Well, I wouldn't mind if my home was bigger. I mean, I do live in Manhattan, so
As New Yorkers feel.
I mean, I will say that my apartment building has this beautiful roof on the top of our
Mm-hmm.
building that you can see all around the entire city. You can see the park, you can see the water, and that
Mm-hmm.
is like it's an additional space for me to go up to work, to rest, to work out, to be outside. And that really helps, just obviously like change of scenery is really
Mm-hmm.
important. I think as far as my home affecting like my pace here, I mean, I'm getting to be here more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting to be here more when I'm not pulling my hair out and like, putting out seven fires. So I'm getting to enjoy it more. I'm getting to cook dinner for my daughter. I'm getting to watch my daughter walk in the door. I mean, that
Yeah.
concept, right? Like, I know that sounds so stupid, and for most parents, you wouldn't even think about it, but I never was home to watch my daughter walk in the door. She
Mm-hmm.
never came home from school and saw me. And so, like, and that, it's like when I think about it, it makes me sad. She got to really see her mom be like a strong, empowering woman, but like she didn't get to like come home and have those moments with me. And so I get to make dinner. Like the other day, my daughter came in. I was sitting like right next to this chair or the door, right in front of the door, and she came in and she had this puberty book, and she was like, "Oh my God, mom!" And open puberty book open, and she's like, "We have to read this over dinner." Like and I was cooking dinner. Dinner was cooking, and she had this book, and she's like, "We have to talk about this." And when I tell you, like the pride I felt that my daughter wanted to talk to me about puberty, because those are hard conversations, and that I was
Yeah.
here in this chair when she walked in the room, it's like, and I think the biggest thing is I'm like I'm present to accept it. You have to be present to accept moments of joy.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm doing a lot of yoga sculpt and core power yoga. And one of my teachers was like, the intention was like, journey, not end results. And so like that's a moment of that's the journey, right? Like this is the journey. You and I sitting here is the journey.
Yeah.
But when I think about some of the end results that I've accomplished in my life, awards or this or that, it's like those aren't the things that bring me happiness. It's like sitting in that chair and watching my daughter come in and knowing that like I've built this relationship with her where she wants to talk to her mom about something that feels weird. And I was like, that's good. I'm not a perfect mom. I'm doing the best I can, but like that felt good. And I would have missed that moment. I mean, I actually would have like logistically missed the moment, a year ago. But even if I was sitting there a year ago, I would have missed it, And so now my like eyes are open, my shoulders are back, and I'm like, wow, like look at this life you've built.
Amazing. And when you think about who you were 20 years ago when you were first starting out and who you are now, how do you think your picture of success has changed? And not just career success, but just a successful, meaningful life?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's changed so much. I think like I like think back to when I was like in my 20s and I was like, oh, I can't wait till I'm invited to premiere parties. Like, well, that'll be the day. And then the second you get successful enough to get invited to premiere parties, you don't want to go to premiere parties because you're like, oh, like it's empty. It's not for me. Unless it's someone meaningful in your life, you're like, no, thank you. Success for me is like, obviously, like I want to be able to provide for my daughter. That is like something that I think about. It weighs on me. I want to be able to give her a great life. And I'm fortunate that I've been able to do that so far. But ultimately it's not about like notoriety. It's not about press. It's not about money or clothes or, cars. For me, it's really like, I love the feeling of helping people. I know that sounds stupid, like, but how I would, if I can do something that I feel really passionate about, and like at the end of the day, like I sleep really well knowing that I like did something that felt good. And if I can like, live a decent life doing that, I think that's success, right? Joy, gratitude. My favorite quote in the world is, it's not happiness that makes you grateful. It's gratefulness that makes you happy. And like, it's just like, I want to live a life of gratitude. I want to live a life of gratitude where I'm around people that I love. I want to have time for the people who are my angels, who are my supporters, who care for me. I want to be able to care for them. I want to do interesting things. I want to work with interesting people, but like, it's not like I have to go like win a bunch of awards to make myself feel like, well, now we've really done it. Like it's totally been rewritten for me. Because truly, like, I have some Emmys and those are lovely and I worked really hard for them. But like at the end of the day, like those don't really make me happy. Right. So for me, it's like doing something that I feel really passionate about that has impact and is with good people. That's success. Right. And then being able to enjoy my family and the loves in my life.
Amazing. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And I just think you have so many wonderful perspectives and insights. And it's funny that you said, that helping people is simple, but I think the simplest things can often be the most meaningful. And I think that sounds simple, but it's a lot more complex than it sounds. So thank you so much for so many great insights and for sharing your story with us. I want to get into our lightning round of fun questions. I
love a fun question.
I love a lightning round. I figured you would like this one. So to start out, what is a ritual?
What if I put like a sweatband on and I was like, okay, I'm ready.
That would be amazing. Please do that. That would have been very fun. What is a ritual that you keep in your home that means a lot to you?
My daughter and I do questions. Depending on how much time we have, we ask each other, let's say 3 questions each before bed. And that's very meaningful to me. It can be anything in the entire world, but it's like we always ask each other questions before bed.
Do you find that it's usually hypothetical or personal or what kind of questions?
It could be like, if you were president, what would you, we have a book, of questions, or it could be like,
Fun.
what's the last time you were embarrassed? Or what are you most excited about? Or if you were a fish, what fish would you be? It can be anything. And we both have to answer it.
I love that one. That's such a good one. What's one thing you remember loving about your childhood bedroom?
my mom stenciled flowers all around and she painted them. And it's so funny. It makes me like almost like get choked up thinking about my mom doing that. But she stenciled these beautiful flowers around the top of the border of my room. And I grew up being really proud of them.
Oh, I love that one. What's your favorite space in your home now?
My bed. My bed is so comfortable. My bedroom is my bed is the most comfortable place in the world, and I love it so much.
Is there an SNL sketch that you find yourself thinking about or quoting often in your daily life?
You know, I obviously been asked that question about SNL sketches so many times in my life. And of course, the things that I think about are never the things that like anyone remembers. Right. The digital shorts were always really some of my favorite things. And there was this Lonely Island, Andy Samberg and Fred Armisen and Adam Levine did this digital short called I Ran So Far Away. And I just think it's beautifully done. And the song sticks in my head. Like I can like walk down the street and I still hear the song. I don't even know how to access it. Like, you know, it's not like it's on Spotify, or maybe it is, right. But the song stays in my brain.
Yeah.
It lives in my brain. I'll never not be able to like sing it right away.
I love it. What's one thing in your home that makes your life easier?
Oh, that's interesting. What I want to say is Insight Timer. It's on my iPad, so I know that's like, but I use Insight Timer to do meditations whenever I'm feeling like a little bit like anxiety in the chest or down. And so, there's some really beautiful guided meditations that I've really, I'm surprised I didn't send them to you already. I send them to everybody in my life. So there's definitely a million people in my help diary who have gotten them. But I really, I've added meditation late in life, but that Insight Timer has really like been a gift for me. There's a couple people especially that I love. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to check that out.
And it eases my you know, when you can feel your anxiety build and then it really blocks something up here, it's just like it pushes it back down and it brings me back to like a place of gratitude usually. So that's something helpful for me.
Wow. I love it. Who's someone you admire who you think really lives well?
Oh my gosh. I've always thought Diane Sawyer is just like, I mean, just the dream. I was at a birthday party where she was at, like, this is like over a decade ago. And I remember just being like, she like had her shoe, like it turned into a dance party and she had her shoes off and she was just like graceful and elegant and so brilliant and so poised, but fun. I was just like, she's the dream. She's
got it figured out.
Ultimate. She's it's just so magical, you know?
I totally agree. What inspires you to live better?
My daughter. I mean, I think everything after I had my daughter, like I want to be a better person. I want to like myself more. I want to show her that she can take up space in the world, that she doesn't have to be afraid to take up space. I say 100% like everything. I mean, obviously as a parent, your life changes when you have your daughter, but like it's changed the way I want to live my life and who I want to be. And I want her to be proud of who I am. And so that just completely informs now the way I move about the world.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much. This has been so meaningful and I really appreciate you having us into your home.
We really got a lot done in 43 minutes.
We really did.
I'm impressed. It's like shorter than a therapy session, but felt a little bit like one.
Feels like one, right?
Put that in the promo, like therapy with Lindsay Shookus. That's basically what I do.
Thank you to Lindsay Shookus for joining us today. Follow along with Lindsay on Instagram @ShookusShookus and learn more about joining the Women Work Hard community at wwfh.community. I'm Kristin Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe to Make Yourself at Home and leave us a review. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.